Christmas is the most wonderful time of the year, as popular music would have it. And Christmas is the most significant time of the year. The jolliness, the happiness of this season is because it brings together friends, family, relatives around the feast, around the table. It's truly a wonderful time of the year. But what is Christmas all about? What is its significance? We want to explore that in today's video. My name is George Murichu. I serve as a pastor with Christ is the Answer Ministries, and I want to welcome you to CITAM Church Online. Like I've mentioned, Christmas brings together families, friends, relatives. It's just a great time to celebrate after a long and possibly a weary year. It's a time of celebration. Some have said that Christmas has been hijacked and commercialized, and suddenly Christmas has become more about spending, and less about what its true essence is. And we obviously may know, it's possible that we may be aware that Christmas, at the heart of it, is a celebration of the birth of Christ. That's what it's about. And this was foretold many years before the actual birth of Jesus. It was foretold in the book of Isaiah, 7 centuries before the birth of Jesus. In Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6, we read a powerful prophecy, the promise of Christmas. We are told, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." I suspect that you will hear this verse read a number of times. You'll come across it, especially during this season of festivities, this season of Christmas. But this is one of those messianic prophecies, the prophecy of the Messiah who would come, the prophecy of his birth in particular. And we are told that to us a child is born. And then it goes on to say, a son is given. And that may be poetic language, but in that poetry, we see a prophecy of the uniqueness of this child. We see that it's not just a child who will be born, but he will also be a son who will be given. And theologians and commentators have observed that this is a prophecy of the dual nature of Jesus Christ. That on the one hand, he is the child who was born to Mary, he is Jesus. Yet on the other hand, he's the son who pre-existed, even Mary herself. He is basically the son who is the gift of God. He's the son who is given. I want to track ahead quickly to what this means. So what is significant about his birth? What is significant about him being given to us as a gift of the Father? Why is this significance? As someone would say, how does this affect cocoa production in Ghana? What is the effect of his birth? What is the significance of him being given to us? And to get a sense of that, we have to track back to the story. And the story of humanity begins with Adam and Eve, our first ever parents. It begins with Adam and Eve in the garden of God's delight, in a land that was abundant in every sense, a perfect world where they were walking in close communion with God. Genesis chapter 3 verse 8 tells us that they used to walk together. It implies that they used to walk together in the cool of the day. It gives us a picture of a very close relationship where God and man were actually in sync. And of course, that very same chapter goes on to tell us the tragedy of the fall, the tragic occurrence of sin, and how sin comes into the equation. And because of that, man and God are alienated from one another. Adam and Eve are out of the garden of God's delight, and they go east. They live east of the Garden of Eden. And the more they go east, the more the story deteriorates. We see very quickly Genesis chapter 4, we see the tale of two brothers killing, or rather Cain killing his younger brother Abel. We track ahead to Genesis 9, we see the story of Noah getting drunk and one of his sons is cast. We track ahead to Genesis 11, we see the story of how humanity builds up this Tower of Babel seeking to reach heaven. And all I'm trying to show us is in this plot lines of the story, we see how man is estranged from God. And we see the effects of that. We see the effects of that isolation. One is murder, another one is drunkenness, another one is attempts at reaching to God by our own efforts. The Tower of Babel, we'll make a name for ourselves. It's also possibly a picture of how you and I can try to do things without God. But all I'm saying in all of this is that Christmas reminds us, announces to us the good news that now God is with us. That now we who are estranged from God, we who are isolated, we have an opportunity to come close to God through Jesus Christ, the Son who was given. And what that practically means is that if you are going into this festive season and you haven't yet accepted Christ as Lord and Savior, it's like you going into this celebration, someone's birthday, and there are so many people there, but you don't even know who's been celebrated. I want to challenge you to take that first step, and that's a step of inviting God into your life, of reconnecting with God, of reconciling with Him by accepting Christ as your Lord and Savior. And maybe you're watching this and Jesus is your Lord and Savior, but there are things in your life that are not going well, as is often the case in our human experience. I want to remind you of the promise of Christmas. Christmas reminds us that God is present in our lives, that God has checked into the human story. He has come in, and we'll track ahead and see the implications of His coming. That its implications are He reigns, His government is upon the shoulders. The implications are He reigns not just at the national scale, He reigns in the human heart to give you wonderful counsel, to give you peace, to give you joy. So if you have accepted Christ, but maybe you feel isolated, you feel disconnected, I want to remind you of the promise of Christmas, that God is with you. He's with you as you're watching this video right now. You may be watching the video on your phone, on a laptop, on a tablet, whatever means through which you're watching this video. Maybe someone passed it on to you, but I want to remind you that God is present in our lives. God is with us. We have an opportunity to be friends with God, to walk with Him in the cool of the day, just like Adam and Eve once did in the Garden of Eden. And that's the promise of Christmas. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments about this if we can get in touch on our various social media platforms. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.